those kind of temperatures and snows don't hit Texas very, very infrequently. So hindsight's 2020. So that was one area of failure. The other failure point is that if you think about, a lot of people, we've talked about the grid, the transmission grid in this country, and we tend to think of that as a unified whole. There's an entire grid across the country. That's not true. If you think of this entire mainland United States, you can think of three separate grids. There's a Western grid, and there's an Eastern grid, and then there's Texas. Texas is almost completely isolated unto itself as a grid. It has virtually no interconnections to other, either to the Western grid or to the Eastern grid. And they've done that purposely, unfortunately, in hindsight, not very good. But if they would have had tie lines to other areas, they probably could have served their load. But they have chosen for different reasons to go into to be an isolated grid. And in modern day parlance, you could call it a microgrid on a state scale. So this is the advantage, as far as the district is concerned. We're part of a larger grid. The grid is a good thing. The transmission grid is a good thing. We have multiple ways for power to come to us. So if you think of Texas keeping those two things in mind, they were not interconnected to the larger grid, and they did not plan for cold weather. Those two things were probably the things that really hurt Texas and what we're seeing currently in the news. So.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, unless there are any other comments, Director Aguera, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I'm okay. I'm fine.
You're okay? Good.
Steve
Gross has something.
Let me move down. Steve, I'm sorry, you're not on my screen, so I couldn't see you.
I'm sorry, I'm usually not this vocal. I think maybe one other bullet here would be to identify and just keep in focus the regulatory statutory requirements, because the state has enacted laws and that we must follow. And even though we are ahead of the requirements time-wise, I think just in the big picture, we want to keep those mandates as part of the picture.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our last initiative, Brian.
Okay, clean local power generation, such as solar, hydro, or biomass. Again, another initiative with a lot of discussion in the focus groups and a lot of discussion outside of the focus groups on really what does this look like for the community, our region, for all the reasons we've discussed, the climatic reasons, the geography, and then the one that wasn't really discussed in detail during the focus groups that would need to be discussed in terms of the impact on our local infrastructure and what investments in our local distribution systems would be required to incorporate these other generation sources. So again, really engaging with the community to identify what the actual project is, what the scope of work would be, but also identify and evaluate what opportunities are out there. Is solar, rooftop, community-wide solar an opportunity here? Is small hydro, kind of outside the box thinking, are there opportunities locally here for that? And then what does biomass mean in terms of total project plan, its relationship with vegetation management, the region, other local agencies? There's a lot of discussion here that really needs to be undertaken before the district can really start to talk about a larger project plan. Again, identifying public-private partnerships, additional public workshops to see what the community is really looking to engage in. And only at that point could we really get into preliminary project plans and taking into note what Council Gross just said, regulatory evaluation is obviously something we need to continue to keep an eye on, and then the environmental impacts as well. So I can open this discussion for board and staff on what needs to be put in there in terms of next steps.
Ideas? Anybody have any ideas for what we're missing? Any gaps? Your thoughts? President Finn?
Oh, go ahead, Krista.
Well, on this one, I think that the public-private partnership really needs to be elevated. Like I know I'm a big driver behind the local generation, but I never envisioned the PUD doing it. Like, I don't think we're not gonna build a plant. We're not gonna run a plant. We're not gonna really have anything to do with that end of it. That is somebody else's business plan. The PUD would just buy the energy. So like, it's not really, and even that, that commitment to buy energy, that of course is going to depend on how expensive the energy is, that all of those things. But I think it's really it's a matter of sort of drumming up local interest in it to take it and do it. Not for us to do it. Because it is a very big project. There's a lot of regulation. There's, biomass is getting a lot more attention from the state than it has in very recent years. People are understanding the role it's playing in our fire danger situation. People are really thinking hard about how to make biomass a financial success. And that is private industry's job. Our job is to say, hey, if you can get us that power at 9 cents a kilowatt hour, then we'll take it. So it's really about just creating the environment in the local business community that they could pursue biomass, and they'd have support from the PUD on that level. So again, it's more like a local education, and this is a business opportunity for someone, not.
So President Finn, what I hear you say is let's move the identification of public-private partnership up top.
Yes. Did everybody hear that, or did I just say, was I muted?
No, you were not muted until the very, very end.
Okay, sorry.
Director Bender, I think you were ready to say something.
I agree with Krista bringing that up to the top. I like that idea. And Brian already mentioned and Steve previously, the regulations. That's we got to keep that in mind. Maintaining that and operating a rooftop solar. They need maintenance. They break. The snow breaks things, and time does, and weather. So not operating that and running that is, I like that idea. So, I think we're in the right direction, and adding the regulatory analysis or part of the bullet points is great, and looking good. Thank you.
I just want to really quickly say we should add battery storage to this, because that can function as generation.
Add battery storage, Brian, to that list.
Got it.
Great. Director Aguera.
I missed the first part of Krista's comments, and did she say that we wouldn't run the biomass plant, that somebody else would, and we would buy the power? Is that what I gathered?
President Finn, I see her thumbs up.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly.
Again, we wouldn't be in control of that. We can ask them how much we'd like to pay for the power, but they would base that on their costs and their overhead, and they'll come up with maybe a different situation. I don't know how we'd have to get into that before we would naturally do anything with the biomass. So
There'll be opportunities for a lot more discussion on this.
yeah,
even-
that's what I mean. We need more.
Yeah, you're right.
We need more information.
Director Harris.
And the thing is, we wouldn't have the control
Whoops.
with that power. I would say I would concentrate on solar and small hydro as much as we could, or whatever else we can get.
So Director Aguera, you're saying your recommendation is concentrate more on solar, and what else did you say?
Yeah, small hydro, solar, and whatever else they're out, the wind, something.
Okay.
We have some of the other renewable power now, so maybe we can concentrate on getting more of what we've got instead of.
All really good thoughts. Thank you, Director Aguera. Director Harris.
I'm with Krista that this should be somebody else's business plan. Just because of staffing, housing, living up here, all that good kind of stuff. The other thing is, one person did bring up in the focus groups is the cost of real estate to build something like that. So it's expensive real estate where we live. And obviously, if we're going to go down the path of building some type of plant, that would need to be taken into consideration. But I like the comments that the other directors had.
Good. Good comments. Thank you. Vice President Laliotis.
Thanks, Pam. No, all good comments. You know, just one thing with this project is, you know, we just have to be careful. It's a bit of a black hole, and it can be a bit of a, you know, good ideas, but just a lot of work to flush it out. One thing I don't see really is in this list is kind of a goal. What are we trying to do with this initiative? Are we trying to set a goal that we try and get X% of our power from local clean generation? Are we setting a goal of just trying to do something local? I think it's important to flush that out in the first few bullets as to what we're trying to do, because, you know, as has been alluded to in discussions already, you know, cost of this cost of our own local generation, you know, someone else doing it for us, you know, someone else's business plan. Those are all valid ideas. And by establishing goals, you maintain the flexibility to work within any of those possibilities versus being focused on, you know, our own, taking some of this on our own. So the goal is to provide clean power generation for our community. So figure out how to get there, figure out what the goal is, and how we get there, but be flexible.
I'm wondering, Brian, if it's possible for next month's meeting that we try to flesh out some goals for these initiatives. Some you're already meeting with community partners and want to establish a task force, and then goals would be delineated. But I'm thinking maybe we can bring back to the board, and I'm brainstorming here, from staff just after tonight's discussion, craft some goals. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to point out, and I know that Joe Horvath and Steve Ponsley are chomping at the bit right now.
I know they are too.
This particular initiative here is going to require some additional education here internally within the district, just to the board, discussions with staff, because there are a lot of nuances to it. And I think Tony makes a great point that we really need to identify a goal of what the district is to accomplish here. And piggybacking on President Finn's point that, perhaps we be the hub, but that private sector or other entities be the one to champion or take this task on. There are a lot of regulatory nuances that are associated with this, state and federal initiatives. There's simply from a power distribution standpoint within our own utility, there are a lot of challenges here. And so this is part of that overall SWOT analysis, simply putting in, a solar array somewhere that isn't kind of a net zero expense for us. There's internal costs there for us to be able to distribute that power and account for it. So out of all the initiatives, I think this one is going to require a lot more workshop and education and just brainstorming, as you pointed out, Pam. There are a lot more
the other thing I was thinking about is staff for the board. Staff did incredibly rich benchmarking, and we just shared a little bit of it with you. And especially for this initiative, Brian, I think it would be helpful, when you plan a workshop for this, follow up that benchmarking the board hears in more detail.
Yeah, I think.
But let's go on to the last while we can still get our cash cow in.
Okay. Just real quick, I will. For staff, will bring back to the next workshop some more definitive goals, and then we will be. We'll have further discussion on setting some additional workshops on this particular initiative.
Great. Okay. We're going to end with a really cool model, you guys. So this is how you can take and apply any project you're working on, even in your own home with kids. This is a brilliant model that I want to tell you a little story about. And Brian, just bring the model up. This history of this model is so rich. The cash cow model is owned really and designed by a gentleman whose name is Bruce Henderson, who is no longer alive. But we strategic consultants across the United States look at him as just this Disney of our whole profession. He actually founded the Boston Consulting Group in 1970 when he was 37. And he had this magical personality, you guys. And he had a way of looking at anything complex and just articulating how to take it through a process simply. And if you think about that, it's really an art and a science. And so he was frustrated with how business units chose to really analyze their product lines to increase revenue. But more than that, he was really excited about customer delight. And he and Walt Disney were really good friends. And customer delight, Disney had that and still does, nailed. And so what he wanted to design was a matrix where any business, government or private, could take this matrix and apply it to projects as well as initiatives. And he would always say, it's the 3 E's, and he'd kind of be playful and talk about expedient, efficient, effective, and you must use this. So I want to tell you why I love this so much. Because you as a board working with staff can take these initiatives and key capital projects and see exactly where they are in the design and implementation of them. So I want to explain the 4 matrices. The goal is that you always want to protect your cash cows. And for all of you who are in individual businesses, this is your largest revenue stream. And that's really on net profit. So what that line is, think of that. For utilities, your cash cows are electric and water ratepayers. You want to protect this at all cost. This has the highest impact to the community, the largest funding stream. And so the processes and mature systems that you have, you want to make sure you maintain those. That's pretty obvious. Now, the way the matrix works is you always want to build your cash cows. So let me give you another client. Nike's cash cow is Air Jordan. It will always be Air Jordan. It always has been Air Jordan. I hope it is forever. I didn't expect it to be. Their net margin is 48% on Air Jordan. Unbelievable. They are constantly reinventing their cash cow. Now let's talk about city government. What is the cash cow for most city governments? Tony, you're muted, but I know you know the answer. Yeah, it's taxes. Exactly. And that's near and dear to their hearts. Now, you always want to have in the pipeline in the PUD bright ideas. You can run customer service ideas through the cash cow model. So remember, Bruce Henderson was just so excited about customer delight and what it is. So when new ideas would come in, I want to explain what new ideas are. They have high potential, and in the utility, they have low impact and low economic value, but they're a bright idea. So if we just look at our community prioritization of your initiatives, these are your two bright ideas from the community. The goal for staff and the board with initiatives is to move them to stars. So this is everything you talked about, from business plans, project plans, getting task forces, adding more information that you want to see. So it has rising impact. If you do a beta test on one of these initiatives, let's do a beta. It is still in the star. It is not in the cash cow. The only time a project moves to a cash cow is when it's supporting itself. That's the only time. And so in the star, you want to strategize, how do you move it? And the high-speed broadband, once the task force meets, you begin, really talking about all the details in a business plan. It might move over halfway between the star and the light bulb. Now, sometimes these bright ideas don't work. It doesn't even move to a star. And then what you must do is move them to the doggy. The doggy has to find new homes. It doesn't mean you won't bring it back. Some projects that are cash cows, or let's say processes in business that need to be reinvented, are listed under dogs. So in the high-tech field, there are these doggy things constantly that need to be reinvented and moved to stars. So Brian, make it really simple as to why we would have 100% clean renewable and clean power generation solar under the star.
So both of these initiatives, 100% clean renewable is something we're currently engaged in, where we have been pursuing, and it has high potential for the district and the community. It's still under development. It hasn't been completed. We haven't reached 100% clean renewable. Once we we do, that's when we could move it to a mature system down into the cash cow quadrant. But currently, it is a rising star for us. It has value to the community, and we continue to develop it.
So let's just say, as high-speed broadband begins to move and you find out that it actually could be a revenue generator, as President Finn, you said tonight, not saying you would decide you want to go into that business, but just say you did. That's when it moves to a star and you would do all the business planning, including all the operating expenses, everything that Director Harris talked about before moving, even thinking about the strategic operating plan to move it here. Why this is helpful is it helps staff to really think through where are these projects and initiatives. Sometimes there's a project that has been moving along fine and it stalls. You can probably think of some projects at the PUD that have stalled. They would be moved then to lower impact. At that time, they have low potential, but you need to reinvent them, put more money, resources, time, energy, staff time into them. So this is an example of one of our goals of how we would take private sector thinking and apply it to the PUD as we are really thinking about these capital projects and initiatives. And we just wanted to share this with you tonight, and we'll share it with you again. And it's very easy to apply culture to this. It really is. It may sound far-fetched, but it's not. So we'll have some fun with this moving forward. But I really wanted to share this with you because it's a magical, magical thing. So I'm going to end this thought with, it's going to be soon. I really believe that we can be on the road again with our families. And I don't know about you, but for my family, planning vacations and where we're going to go, I use the cash cow model and our daughter still uses it. So you have everybody brainstorm all their bright ideas, and then you have to do a cost analysis here, to really see the potential, all the details. So you give everybody a budget. And then you have them define, how are they going to feel? What's the cash cow? What's going to make the best vacation possible so that no one's disappointed and you don't have to come home with these doggies that need new homes. I just had to end with that. I know it's a bit magical and out of the box, but I have to tell you, Bruce Henderson would do these amazing workshops around this. So you walk into Google in the engineering design building, and this is flashing on the wall, a full wall of the cash cow model with all their bright ideas, where their cash cows are, what has to be, turned into dogs immediately and either reinvented or that idea just didn't work. We're not doing it. So I think staff is going to have fun with this and we'll continue to share it, but just wanted you to know some of the intellectual thinking we're all doing in really focusing on providing the utility with different level of thought and interaction and having fun while we're doing it. Brian, last comments.
Yeah, I think this is a prime example. While the caricature of it, the illustration on the play with, it is taking a private sector concept and applying it to public sector work. We first cringe when we hear the term profit and high economic value, but if we frame it in high community value and high financial value, revenue value for us to give back to the community. And we have another model that dovetails in with this. It's really the cash cow for us is community benefit. And that's really what it comes down to. If if there's a rising star idea in terms of the public utility, we continue to build it, we continue to develop it fully, but it has to be at a mature system, be of high impact and value to the community as a whole. So it's a great model to take from private sector and apply it to our thinking. The risk here is that a project or an initiative can hang out in one sector too long, and we don't have the means to kind of either reevaluate it or reconsider it. This kind of provides that easy tool to do that.
Thanks, Brian. And we're going to start next month's workshop with the model we're going to show you next. We'll spend time in really talking about this cool model, the environmental social governance model. We'll start with that. And Brian, the next slide, which is the end. So we have our March workshop. So we're going to continue doing financial modeling, milestone mapping, where we're going over with financial modeling applied to projects over the next 6 months. In April, again, we talked about this is all the staff development focus, culture, and values. And during these 2 months, Brian and staff will be starting to write a real business plan with an executive summary, the history of the PUD, really talking about this process. It will talk about the strategic levers, the painting the landscape, the SWOT. So you'll have a document, but the key will be all the processes that you're going to visit monthly and keep this thing going. So the acceptance of the goals and the major initiatives and strat plan will be May 19th. So you guys, hard to believe, we're close. President Finn, would you like to have the team say some closing thoughts?
Well, I would certainly going to start with that. I just wanted to say thank you so much to staff for all the time and energy you are putting into helping us through this process. I want to thank my fellow board members for your continued focus and your thoughts and your contributions here. I really, I think we're going to come out with in a really great place. So, and I'll open it up to anybody else who has any closing thoughts. Why am I so big?
Sure. No, I want to thank staff for another great presentation. You never know what to expect when you come to these strategic planning sessions, and success is based on information eliciting thought and discussions and ideas and concepts. So I think it was successful in that regard. So thanks for all your hard work.
Shut myself down. Well, would anybody else? I see.
I'll pipe in next. Yeah, thank you guys. This has definitely been a very thorough process and has taken a lot of time and everything. It looks like our goals, the timeline has extended out. I'm looking at, I finally got a chance to kind of review some of the older slides that you had. And April was when we were supposed to actually adopt the strategic goals, but it sounds like we're adding business plans now into it. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please clarify.
No, yeah. Well, we missed November.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. And so we just extended the workshop that would have been in November out.
Okay.
So nothing else has been added from the original plan.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that.
You bet.
But then one thing that I haven't really quite seen is in the cash cow process and the model kind of brought this up is, when do you finally pull the plug and say enough is enough? We've analyzed it, we've looked at it, we're definitely going to set the goals, or we're not going to set the goals. Like, is there also like an exit plan if we decide not to and just put it into the dog section, or just, I'm just curious about that. So, but thank you.
Yeah.
I know these nights get late, and I know it's a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate everybody's time. So thank you.
You're welcome. Director Harris, I'm sorry, did you want me to respond to that at all, or was it just a comment?
I just thought we're just kind of providing comments. I'm not looking
Yeah.
for, you know. I'm not
Okay,
looking to give
just wanted to be
direction.
sure I wasn't responding when I should. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent process, a lot of hard work, a lot of, there's going to be a lot of background work from staff. So I'm looking forward to the next strategic workshop. It's nice to make some progress on this and see it just start to finalize and gel, and get everybody's ideas as we modify along the process here, and keep an open mind and keep pushing forward. So thank you.
Just thanks to everybody. I think, Brian, unless you have any closing comments, just want to thank you for keeping your mental energy focused. You guys did great. Loved all the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for this board's participation in this. As we've discussed many times, this is a board project that staff is participating in, partnering with. The overall strategic plan is set by the board of directors, and we're accomplishing this in some not so conventional circumstances. You know, the workshops we're having right now, we're having on Zoom instead of in the same room, and really, you know, kind of spitballing and whiteboarding. And so thank you for all that hard work. And in the next couple of workshops, we're really going to start to paint some of the details in terms of the financial review and what the next steps are as we adopt a strategic plan as a district. So looking forward to that. It's something that's been, we've been long waiting for here at the district, and really appreciate some of the comments Director Lalio's had in his own experience with them that we can apply here as well. So looking forward to it.
Very good. Well, again, thank you to everybody. And I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Go out and have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.